If you read the news and the headlines, you would likely assume that the Conservative Party of Canada is in a ridiculous amount of turmoil. I mean, sure, maybe you can assume that there are a few caucus members who disagree with some of the decisions that Pierre Poilievre is making, potentially even 15 out of a caucus of over 140. But in short, not only is this assessment wrong, it is very much an example of how the media has always been overly friendly to the left. We don't see very much reporting on the internal turmoil within the Liberal Party, whether it be to do with Bill Blair, Jonathan "I'm not unhappy" Wilkinson, Karina Gould, or Nate Erskine-Smith, which is very much analogous to this. The only difference being that Carney is the Prime Minister and didn't lose the April election, whereas Pierre Poilievre is not the Prime Minister and lost the April election. However, Pierre is still enjoying the support of the CPC base and the vast majority of caucus. In short, as a young Conservative supporter, I am very hostile towards the idea of removing Pierre Poilievre as the Conservative Party leader. There was also another Conservative Prime Minister who lost an election, experienced an even more high-profile floor crossing, and had some caucus issues. However, he still remained as party leader, maintained strong support within the base, and even when the election was in a lock, and won the next election in 2006 and the following two afterwards. His name was Stephen Harper. Now, while not a perfect analogy, this to me is the type of situation we find ourselves in. And for the record, an MP selling out their constituents and crossing the floor over not being deputy speaker is something that reflects on this individual, not on Pierre Poilievre. And now, I will go over 3 reasons why I think Pierre Poilievre must remain our leader. Reason 1. The base likes Pierre. At this point in their leaderships, as in a couple of months post-election loss, Andrew Scheer's popularity with the Conservative Party of Canada voters was plus 28, Aaron O'Toole was at plus 48. Pierre Poilievre, he is at plus 71% support within the party. Pierre Poilievre is popular with the base, and kind of like a wind in the sails of the Conservative Party members. He has managed to speak to many of the various issues Conservatives have with the state of the country, with his charisma and natural gift for speaking. He has been able to not only energize people with his ideas, but with his rhetoric. Sure, it can be off-putting to some, but I'd argue most of the people you see complaining about Pierre Poilievre's style are people who aren't likely to vote for us to begin with. Removing Poilievre would simply make a lot of Conservative Party supporters unhappy, less likely to get out to vote, and make us less likely to win, period. In fact, I'd argue the base actually likes Poilievre more than they like the Conservative Party. Reason 2. Yes, he can win an election. Pierre Poilievre got 41% of the vote in the election. I won't delve into why he lost the election. I made a whole other video which I will link in the description. But in the face of a trade war with America and CBC's attempts to frame him as some Trumpist, the NDP vote collapsing in favor of the Liberals, and Carney fighting an election in a honeymoon period, he increased the vote share by 7% and won 25 more seats than last election. And Carney isn't really in much of a position to gain support from this 44%. Even polls very unfavorable to the Conservatives haven't shown the Liberals higher than 41%. With the NDP in a leadership race, we will see what the effect of their new leader will be on the party's fortunes in the polls. If the last election was redone, but the Liberals and NDP swapped 3% in the polls, as the NDP would normally sit in a campaign, the Conservatives would win. Even with the polls how they are right now, Poilievre could win. The aggregates did underestimate the Conservatives in the April election. Is a win guaranteed? No. But a campaign can make polling very volatile, and if Carney loses basically any of his support to the NDP, which could very well happen over environmental or labor policy, Pierre is in a better place to win than you might have guessed. The last election also kind of served as a trial run too. While it would have been ideal to, and the goal was to win, we saw the places where the party can and needs to grow in order to win, specifically cities like Brampton and Surrey, where we made a lot of progress in this election, and where almost all of the seats in these cities were in a position where they could have flipped our way. If we put effort into these seats and a few more and hold everything we won in 2025, we win. Reason 3. What will a third leadership race accomplish? Stephen Harper resigned after 10 years as Prime Minister when the Conservatives lost in 2015. Andrew Scheer resigned shortly after losing the 2019 election, and Aaron O'Toole was removed in a caucus vote after losing the 2021 election and flip-flopping on policies. The 2017 and 2020 leadership races never really resolved anything. There was no obvious successor in any of these races who was really in a position to topple Trudeau. Sure, Poilievre lost in 2025, but he has a path to victory and was the obvious, popular successor in his leadership race who won the leadership with the support of over half of caucus, and others mostly united around him afterwards. There is no obvious successor to Poilievre. There are some caucus members who would do a just fine job as leader, don't get me wrong, but none with Poilievre's charisma and smart electoral strategy. If Poilievre couldn't have won the April election, nobody could have. And if we had gone the Liberal light route, the PPC would have just been stronger and the Liberals would have won a majority, which almost happened in 2021. Of all of the names being mentioned in the media, none are nearly as popular as Poilievre, well known, or anything of that sort. The leadership race would not resolve anything, and most of the party would just want Poilievre back anyway. So those are my 3 points. There are more reasons why him staying as Conservative Party leader is a no-brainer, but I didn't really want to make this video too long. But what do you think? Do you agree with my points, or do you disagree with me entirely? Let me know in the comments, but if you enjoyed this video, consider leaving a like and subscribing, as that helps me out a lot. But apart from that, have a good rest of your day, and see you.